evening all, and welcome to the Council of the City of Norwich, June 19th. If you all who are able, please stand, and Alderman Martin will lead us in a prayer.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen. Amen.
Alderman Braddock, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Those of you who are able, would you mind standing just for another couple of minutes? Recently, Norwich lost another fine citizen who contributed much over the course of many, many years. Olive Buddington passed away. It is a terrible loss. She was a terrific woman, and many of you knew her and worked with her, and she was a force to be reckoned with. She cared deeply about things and wasn't afraid to let people know how deeply she cared about an issue. I just wanted you to know that she had become a member of the City Council from December 1989 and was on until December of 1991. As an older woman, she voted to prepare plans for the new Senior Citizen Center, which is quite the place. I think she became a member of the Senior Affairs Committee on February 2nd, 1995, and she was on until just recently. And one of the greatest things, and it's too bad people like Sophie Knobloch aren't here with us tonight, she worked on the Greenville Neighborhood Revitalization Zone. It's very rare that someone becomes so invested in their community. And it wasn't enough that she just loved the community. She actually worked to change it. And when I said she was a force to be reckoned with, if you didn't do what she said about Greenville, she would get you. So it is really a sad loss amongst the other losses that we've had recently for Norwich. So if we could just take a moment of silence to remember her. Thank you all.
Citizen comment on resolutions. Excuse me, citizen comment general.
This is the time for the next 30 minutes that we welcome your comments on things that are other than on the agenda. I would ask that you state clearly your name and address. I would also ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and I see some new faces, so if you're not familiar with our system, there is a light and buzzer system up on the podium, and then I will graciously remind you if the buzzer doesn't. And the reason we do that is so that everyone gets a chance and an equal chance. So I have a few people who have signed up, and if we still have time, then I'll just take hands. And if you haven't signed up and you'd like to speak, all you need to do is raise your hand and I will call on you. The first person is Fran Ceccolini. Oh, I didn't do too bad.
My name is Fran Ceccolini. I live at 128 St. Regis Avenue, and I'm here tonight to talk about the quarry at Hilltop at Edgewood.
Speak a
And-
little closer to the microphone.
And I know that you all are familiar with it because we've sent you a lot of information about it. I want to talk about how it's affecting me, and it's affecting the quality of my life. I like to enjoy a cup of coffee on my porch in the morning, working in my garden, walking my dog, reading in the afternoon on my porch, having brunch with friends. Since I've retired, these are activities that I look forward to. Unfortunately, I can't trust that I can do any of these on any given day. The noise coming from this quarry is so loud that it's impossible to spend any time outside. The quarry is, when it's functioning, the noise is deafening. And of course, there's the blasting, and we never get any notification of when the blasting is happening. I never know when the quarry is going to be in operation. Some days it starts at 6, 7 in the morning and goes until 7 at night. I can't make any plans. And I've just recently heard that Mr. Zeman, who is running the quarry, is now bringing stone in to be crushed. So it seems that there is no end to this issue. And my particular complaint seems small in comparison to some of my neighbors who have experienced structural and sewer backup issues to their homes. Their problems are serious and should be addressed. Mr. Zeman's folly has been going on for 12 years. It has negatively impacted the neighborhood. Norwich's financial position is not good. Lack of industry has put a larger burden of tax revenue on homeowners. Because of the high taxes, people are having a difficult time selling their properties, and new people aren't buying property. I bring this up to point out that my neighbors who might want to sell their homes have both the problem of high taxes and a quarry in their backyard. I assume that the tax issue is not easily solved.
Thank you, ma'am. We're just going to take a few seconds. We're having before you speak. Okay.
Mayor Hinch,
Oops, sorry.
Mayor Hinchey and members of the City Council, 1949 culverts were designed, installed, and paid for.
Make sure you say your name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Christine Kaiser, 89 St. Regis Avenue. 1949 culverts were designed, installed, and paid for by the City of Norwich. The city states these culverts are on private property and not their responsibility. However, they have full right and privilege to construct, alter, maintain, and repair a sewer line, to use such sewer for the purpose of common drain or sewer. 1964, undersized culverts were installed under St. Regis. 2005, Norwich Bulletin article, the Commission on the City Plan gave the green light to a 39-unit condo complex in Greenville, Hilltop at Edgewood. Mr. Braddock, you are the only person we heard from regarding our 2/28/11 letter, including 19 zoning complaints, DEP's violation to Hilltop at Edgewood, and DEP's report on the city's undersized and poorly maintained sewer storms system, which is near collapse. At that time, Mr. Nystrom was the mayor, and the council included Mr. Nash and Ms. Hinchey who also received that same letter. We never heard from any one of you. While you were mayor, Mr. Nystrom, the city planner, Mr. Davis, requested Hilltop at Edgewood's bond be released due to financial issues at a city planning meeting. He never informed planning committee members of the complaints, even though he also received that same letter. Mayor Hinchey, you gave me 15 minutes, refused any documentation, and asked, "What is it you want me to do for you?" You sent me a letter stating the culvert system may involve the state of Connecticut. However, the city is only responsible for their culverts, and you needed to apply for the grants and coordinate with the state. 10/19/15 letter to City Council requested a resolution to flooding, which included DEP's culvert report and free grants. Mayor Hinchey and Mr. Nash received this information and nothing was done. 10/19/2005 letter was submitted on August 23rd, 2016 to new members, Mr. Nystrom, Mr. Braddock, Mr. Martin, Ms. Philbrick, and Mrs. Gold. Nothing was done. I also met with city manager, Mr. Salome, and received the documents and reviewed the documents given to city planner Deanna Rhodes on 7/2016. A list of these documents is provided for the city council. I have it here. And we ask you please to review them. I have heard enough about the Derby Gate, wasted money that could have corrected our sewer system. This sickens me. I'm hoping the bulletin will finally move on to the Hilltop Gate, the undersized and crust culvert gate, the listen and do nothing gate, or the received notification and did nothing gate. No one can say they didn't know about these issues unless you didn't listen, didn't read our complaints, or you just don't care. We are tired of being ignored year after year. Free grants were available. City officials knew and did nothing.
Thank you, ma'am. Pat Kucharski?
Hi, Pat Kucharski, 141 St. Regis Avenue. On May 24th, 2017, I delivered 25 packets of material, like the one I'm holding in my hand, to the city clerk. They were addressed to each member of the City Council, the Commission on the City Plan, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. Packets were also prepared for the city planner as well as the Building Housing Code enforcement official. The packet contained information about the Hilltop at Edgewood project owned by Mr. Andrew Zeman and included a petition signed by 46 residents who live in the vicinity of Hilltop and are requesting that the project be stopped. Out of everyone who received packets, I have only heard from one person who happens to be a member of the City Council. I find this to be extremely disappointing, as the packet wasn't just from me, but from my neighbors too, who signed the petition and made comments about the impact Hilltop has had on their lives. As a group of taxpayers, I feel we deserve better than this lack of response regarding our concerns. The many issues and problems that Hilltop has caused our neighborhood can be directly attributed to the Commission on the City Plan. The Commission's approval to Hilltop at Edgewood LLC to build a 39-unit condo complex back in February 2005 has resulted in the veritable snowball effect, a very large, noisy, dirty, out-of-control snowball that at times truly sounds like an avalanche. Although Hilltop has been uncharacteristically silent for the past 2 weeks, there is no guarantee that the project has been stopped. Because there is still heavy equipment on the site, quarry activities could resume at any time. As I have stated before in my correspondence to zoning and to the council, the neighborhood is being held captive by the mining operations of Hilltop. Further, there is no fairness in a situation where the rights of one property owner are allowed to supersede the rights of an entire neighborhood. Adding insult to injury, real estate records show that the owners of Hilltop have a mailing address in Salem, Connecticut, not in Norwich. These same records indicate Hilltop at Edgewood is zoned as multifamily residential with the potential for development. How Hilltop went from multifamily residential to a quarry requires both examination and explanation. At 12 years and counting, Hilltop is not benefiting Greenville. Only the owners of Hilltop are reaping any rewards from this project. There are no condos or multifamily housing units to attract new residents to this area of Norwich. Instead, there are just piles of rocks and acres of rubble. Finally, because the Norwich governing body gave approval to begin the Hilltop at Edgewood project, it is time for a Norwich governing body to end the mining operations of Hilltop, as well as address and correct the problems it has caused for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Wendy Stoner? Wendy Stoner?
Hi, I'm Wendy. I live at 86 St. Regis Drive. I'm here tonight due to the quarry that's going on, the business that should not be going on in this town. I agree with Pat. It's unfair, and that people are benefiting it with their own pockets. We are losing out because the property values are going down. If they want to sell their house and get out of Norwich, they couldn't. Plus, taxes keep going up. If you can sit there and explain to us all why this is happening, that would be wonderful. But this is so unfair, not right, and you guys should get on top of it and start doing something about it.
Thank you, ma'am. Jeff Wojcik?
My name is Jeff Wojcik. I live at 84 St. Regis Avenue, and I'd like to use my time to let you all enjoy the sounds of a Saturday afternoon on St. Regis, listening to the quarry.
Or any day. This is what we have to listen to, and it's just on my phone, so it's not going to be...
Time's running.
All right.
It's much noisier than that.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I have it.
Yeah, it's loading up. You want to talk about how it annoys you, how it sounds?
No, I'd rather wait.
This goes on all day. This is what we have to listen to in our yards. Yeah.
This is at about a quarter of a mile from the quarry.
And this is without the gas.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, you've already had your chance to speak.
This is without the blast. That's just from the sound of the machinery of the rock crusher, which is taking in rock from other locations. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on non-agenda items? Is there anyone else who would like to speak on non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. I'd just like to add my son's name to the list of the folks that complain. The dynamite that goes on up there was enough to wake his kids up out of a sleep, a sound sleep. And it's been going on for a long, long time. I can't remember when that project actually started, but I did mark down the name, 2005. That sounds about right. 12 years these apartments have been being built. I think they've suffered enough. They said it well enough for me.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening. David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. I have two handouts. The first page of my two-page handout has budget page 20 housing prices, suggesting the grand list outpaced the real estate bubble reevaluation since 2002, when the stock market bubble exploded after a so-called new economy info age was no more than BS, and I'm not talking about Bernie Sanders. Another Bernie named Madoff will die in prison for believing in the fabled money tree that he pitched to investors who put a lot of money into his funds and lost much of it. This handout graph displays how the Democrats' tax increase drove voters to sweep Republicans into this council. And the supersized Democrat budget collected $4.4 million in extra revenue that hasn't been used to cut taxes in accordance with a goal to reduce residential tax burdens yet. Most would say that the grand list should be close to 2002, since housing prices only increased 8% above 2002. The hardship is from the reevaluation and the tax increase at the end of that boom. Page 2 of the handout is a Kiplinger magazine page from May 2009, when prices hit bottom according to several sources. This budget 0.5% cut is a joke when housing prices are 78% below 2009 prices. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on non-agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Hearing none, this hearing is closed, and I thank you all very much for your input, both verbal and audio.
Public hearings, number 1, relative to reviewing application and receive comment related to the Neighborhood Assistance Act.
I declare this public hearing on said proposed resolution open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Bill Champagne, president of the Norwich Historical Society. My address is 7 Northwest Corner Road, Preston. And I wanted to talk about the Neighborhood Assistance Act very briefly. The Historical Society has used it successfully with the restoration of the Dr. Daniel Lathrop Schoolhouse on the Norwich Town Green. We assisted the Leffingwell House Museum get some energy-related money. And we're starting to work on the 1789 East District Schoolhouse. We're working with NPW and historic restoration professionals. And this year we're applying for more energy work on the Lathrop Schoolhouse, particularly in the basement, the Buckingham Memorial, Civil War, Connecticut Civil War governor, and we're working with UCFS on the Samuel Huntington Mansion, their headquarters. So I'd like to take the rest of my time. If anybody has any questions about this program or what we're trying to do, please ask, and if not, I'm done.
If during our discussion there are questions, I can ask you up.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Anyone else speaking in favor? Anyone else speaking in favor? Anyone speaking in opposition? Anyone speaking in yes, sir?
Good evening. David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. A Sachem Fund resolution allotted $27,000 to the Historical Society. I could not recollect any legal notices from the past about bids from tax-paying firms for their projects. For these projects, Who are these typical firms who receive these tax breaks? Besides, energy upgrades are a very broad category and run into a lot of money. I foresee this is a never-ending project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? This is the public hearing on the Neighborhood Assistance Act. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? There being no further speakers, I declare this public hearing closed. Thank you all.
Number 2, an ordinance appropriating additional funds from the unrestricted fund balance of the City Consolidation District.
I declare this public hearing on said proposed ordinance open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Yes, sir. Not you yet. I'll get to you.
Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. Ordinarily, I just let this go, but I was reading this down through this item, and I see overtime. Now, I am sick and tired of the police and fire department padding their retirements by boosting up their overtime the last 3 years that they work here. And they're doing it with the permission of supervision, because only a supervisor can authorize overtime. Now, they've been doing it year after year after year after year, and I'm tired of it. I know I've seen what some of the folks draw for a pension, and it's quite handsome. And I think it's time that they started figuring it just a little bit different. I realize this is probably a union thing, but those people negotiating for us aren't doing that good a job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Crabb?
Good evening, David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. I'm opposed to this. Why haven't the taxpayers been given a decent tax cut before the $4 million that the Democrats added to the undesignated fund, rainy day fund, if you will, before it disappears? I think there's something in the pipeline about more of it going to disappear, but the taxpayers who were overtaxed to put this into the fund haven't seen a bit for that overtaxation. Now, that's almost a crime to watch it disappear, because everybody that's working for the city gets to put it into their pocket, more or less, based on what the last speaker talked about. The financial bubble right now is long in the tooth if you watch the financial news. We'll be stuck with all the borrowing that's been padded or laid onto us since the artificial grand list took control of this city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? There being no further speakers, I declare this public hearing closed.
Number 3, an ordinance appropriating additional funds from the unrestricted fund balance of the Town Consolidation District.
I declare this public hearing on said proposed ordinance open. Those wishing to speak in favor? Those wishing to speak in favor? Those wishing to speak in favor? Those wishing to speak in opposition? Those wishing to speak in opposition? Those wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing closed.
Second reading and action on the ordinances. Number 2, an ordinance appropriating additional funds from the unrestricted fund balance of the City Consolidated District.
Is there a motion and second to waive the reading of the full text and incorporate it into the minutes, said ordinance being given the second reading? Alderwoman Gould, Alderman Braddock. Is there a motion and all those in favor? Yikes, got a little too fast on my script. Is there a motion and a second to adopt the following ordinance? Alderwoman Gould, Alderman Nash. Is there discussion? Hearing no, we'll do a roll call. Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Braddock?
Yes.
Alderwoman Philbrick?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Nystrom?
Yes.
And Hinchey, yes. It was unanimous. Thank you.
Number 3, an ordinance appropriating additional funds from the unrestricted fund balance of the Town Consolidation District.
Is there a motion and a second to waive the reading of the full text and incorporate it into the minutes, said ordinance being given the second reading? Alderman Martin, Alderwoman Philbrick, those in favor? And that is unanimous. Is there a motion and second to adopt the following ordinance? Alderwoman Philbrick, Alderman Braddock, is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call. Alderman Nash?
Yes.
Alderman Martin?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Braddock?
Yes.
Alderwoman Philbrick?
Yes.
President Pro Tem
Yes.
Nystrom, Mayor Hinchey says Nystrom, and so that is unanimous.
Petitions and communications. Report from the Select Committee of Inquiry regarding their findings and determinations.
Okay. A motion and a second, please, to receive. Alderman Gould, President Pro Tem Nystrom. Those in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous.
Video of Kelly School graduation.
While Superintendent Oliver is coming up, I brought this before everyone because I know that many on the council work and weren't able to attend the graduation. But it really was something. And this video, I think, speaks to really what the fabric of our schools are about and the joyfulness of the kids, and especially on this day. If you could have seen them march up and get their awards, and I think, Mr. Braddock, you went to one session, didn't you? Did anybody?
I did. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it really was something to behold. And we just went through the budget process and we heard all the negative things about funding and budget cuts and everything else. But this is really what our school is about. So I asked Superintendent Oliver to bring it in, and it's very short and it's very sweet. So this is just a nice treat after our wicked budget. Thank you. Good job. Thank you. And as all the pictures were flashing up on the stage in the auditorium, the kids were cheering each other on, and I mean, it was really wonderful. It was a great statement for our city, and I thank you for it.
Thank you for asking. And two of the teams had school songs that students sang, and this one team did this, so it was great. So thanks for listening.
Thanks.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the City Manager's report for June 19th, 2017. The mayor and I have met several times during the past 2 weeks, in addition to our weekly meetings. The budget has been discussed, reviewed, and finalized after many, it should be meetings, not attempts. Well, both, yeah. On June 5th, the mayor and I attended the ribbon cutting for the Shetucket River National Recreation Water Trail, which was held at the Canoe and Kayak Launch at Red McKeon Park, held by the Last Green Valley. The water trail was developed in a partnership with the Rivers and Trails Program of the National Park Service, Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, the City of Norwich, Norwich Public Utilities, towns of Lisbon, Sprague, Wyndham, Wheeler-Breda Technologies, Friends of Shetucket River Valley, Harvard Ellis Technical High School, volunteers from the Last Green Valley's Water Trail Advisory Committee. And just a side note, it was kind of a foggy day, but it was appropriate. It was very tranquil and beautiful site right within a busy area of Ockham. I attended the Volunteer Fire Pension Fund meeting. Bill Hathaway, purchasing agent, and I had a conference call with Betsy Crum, Executive Director of the Women's Institute, regarding the status of their proposal for the Read and Use building. Bridget Marks and I attended a pension negotiating meeting at the NPU training room to finalize the ground rules for the 10 unions participating. I met with John Long regarding bus service to Norwich. Staff and I met with representatives of the Norwich Golf Course regarding the proposed irrigation system at their site. Union negotiations have started with the Department of Public Works, dispatch, and police mediation continues. Actually, we had our last one last week. I received a press release from the U.S. Attorney District of Connecticut regarding the assistance of Norwich Police Department in conviction of 2 individuals as part of an insurance fraud scheme. Our officers participated with the FBI and the National Insurance Crime Bureau, and the individuals were found guilty of fraud and conspiracy of offenses. Good work, Norwich Police Department. I attended the services for Jackie Owens at Kelly Middle School on Friday, June 16th. She was a remarkable woman who always had words of advice and certainly left her mark on Norwich within the community involvement. She will be sadly missed as a highly respected individual in Norwich and the surrounding communities. And just a sidelight, I met her right in the beginning, and she gave me some sage advice, which I'm not going to share tonight, but it's been helpful to me since I've been manager.
Is there any further questions for, yes?
Are you at liberty to give us any updates on Reed and Hughes?
I could, yes, a little more. We did Read and Use. We had one RFP proposal, which wasn't surprising. We thought that that's what we would have, and it was from the Women's Institute. It was a very comprehensive answer to our RFP. We did have many meetings prior to that with the Institute and other interested parties, so it wasn't a surprise that the response was very comprehensive. We're now working on a letter of agreement and a contract to go along with culminating with the RFP. Once the RFP, we have about a month to finish the document. It's about another two weeks or so. After that, the clock starts. The developer would have 120 days to aggregate the funding for the first phase of the project, which would be the stabilization of the building. If they cannot raise those funds at that point, then the building would revert back to our control. Assuming that they have the stabilization money, the project then would commence, and the planning is to be finished sometime in December, so that we can beat the heavy snows of the upcoming season.
So that would be the completion of the stabilization by
Only the
December.
stabilization.
Okay.
That's correct.
Any other questions for the city manager? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. John, in regards to the police mediation, that is the last mediation that was scheduled, what's the next step based on those results, if any?
Well, I can comment on this because normally that we probably exhausted mediation. So the next step, although we have not formally discussed this with the union, will probably be arbitration, but that has not been formally discussed with the union at this point, since we're at an impasse at this point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I just would like to dovetail on here. I got notice of this. The Peter Kalin Post, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Post 104 on Merchants Ave. They just released the young women and men from the Norwich area that will attend this year's Boys State and Girls State program. So I just wanted all of you to know, these are quite remarkable young people. It says in this letter that the alumni of this Connecticut Boys and Girls State includes former Governor Bill O'Neill and former Senator Joe Lieberman. Some pretty terrific people have come out of this. So from Norwich Free Academy is Nathan Jean, Carter Ward, and Sean O'Neill. Alexandra Taduska, Gieri, and Kathleen Kelly. And then the selectees from the Norwich Technical School include Stephen Alaby and Cody Kerstetter. Oh boy, not sure I got these names right, but Aaron McBride and Wendelis Landrin Bianchi. So this is a pretty prestigious thing, and that's quite a few kids from our Norwich schools. So nothing further for the city manager? Okay.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
This is comments on the resolution part of our agenda tonight. I ask that you again limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address. If you are a business in Norwich and that's why you're speaking on the items, please let us know that. But for the record, we need your name and address as well. I've had a few people sign up, but again, once we exhaust the list, then I'll call on you. I would ask you, if you still wish to speak, that you raise your hand. First is William Sweeney.
Good evening. My name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a land use attorney and a partner at the law firm of Tobin Carberry in New London. I represent Sycon Development, which is the owner of Marcus Plaza on Route 82 here in Norwich. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my client and other business owners along the Route 82 corridor, many of which are here tonight, in support of Resolution Number 5, which would amend the Council's previous endorsement of a roundabout plan for Route 82. As this Council is aware, the project entails the substantial reconstruction of the state highway, the seizure of significant portions of private property by eminent domain, the installation of up to 6 large roundabouts at key intersections, as well as a less publicly discussed median divider that will prevent left turns along the corridor. We organized a meeting earlier this year of key business owners on the Route 82 corridor. We had a turnout of about 75 persons, and we were shocked to see how many people and business owners on that corridor have little to no understanding of the true extent or nature of this project. This is a massive project, one conservatively estimated to cost over $42 million, and likely much more than that, and one which advocates claim will improve safety. Unfortunately, the public in this council has been given only half of the story, and those members of the business community along Route 82 have opposed this project from the start, have not had their legitimate concerns with the proposed design adequately addressed. In fact, when those concerns have been brought to light, they have been ignored and often marginalized. The proposed design of the roundabouts and the medium divider will absolutely have a detrimental impact on business along the corridor. It will disrupt business operations for years. It will prevent the ready and efficient access to commercial properties. It will slow traffic to a crawl during peak travel times, and it will ultimately drive customers out of Norwich to look elsewhere for retail goods and services. Proponents of the project cherry-pick their arguments, citing success stories in other places, but they don't tell the whole story, that there's never been a place where this number of roundabouts has ever been proposed in this proximity, and that while roundabouts often reduce speed, they also drive traffic away from those same corridors as customers look for efficient and easy-to-use shopping areas elsewhere. When it's all said and done, the roundabouts and the median divider are installed, those customers and businesses that remain in Norwich and haven't left will have to contend with the obstacles and cumbersome delays on the Route 82 corridor, and customers will actually have to backtrack back and forth to get around on roundabouts because no left turns are required. I've spoken to many property owners who don't want this project to move forward and simply want to leave Norwich or sell out, but how can they? The DOT is in the process of the design work, a process that's going to take 2 more years.
Thank you, sir.
Can I just conclude?
Thank you. Marvin Cerruto?
Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. I would like to say that I'm in favor of the resolution number 5. It has to do with an amendment to the resolution which will give us more information, subsequently more control in the decision-making process. I would also like to hear what power we have as compared to the state, because it is a state route. What do we have that we can make decisions on that we actually can affect? The argument pro and con will come later, but as far as this resolution goes, this amendment, then I'm in favor of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Alana Sherman.
Thank you. Alana Sherman, 65 Cedar Street, Norwich, Connecticut. I'm testifying regarding Resolution Number 2, which seeks funding for walking tours sponsored by the Norwich Historical Society. I am very supportive of programs and activities that highlight and expand upon the city's assets, especially in regard to arts and heritage. I am concerned, however, that this application for funding, which I quickly reviewed today, does not include any consideration of participation by people with disabilities as required under the Americans with Disabilities Act. This concerns me both in regard to the Norwich Historical Society, which is obligated under Title III of the ADA, and in regard to the city, which must comply with Title II of the ADA in its funding decisions. Obviously, when dealing with historic sites, old sidewalks, and other features attendant upon heritage activities in an old city, accessibility is often a challenge. The ADA, with its flexibility and often negotiation-based provisions, includes recognition of such challenges. And by using the ADA, entities are able to explore creative solutions whenever possible, practicable, and reasonable. If legally possible or permissible, I'm asking that the Council pass this resolution with a stipulation that the Norwich Historical Society build accessibility into its walking tours and other activities. This means that the walks will be evaluated by someone who knows structural access as well as the effective communication and policy access requirements of the ADA. It means that alternative routes and activities will be explored. It means that accessibility information about specific activities, both the advantages and the challenges, will be publicized in varying formats. And it means that the Society will work with local people with disabilities in developing tours and other activities. Finally, I would ask that the SACHM funding application template include appropriate ADA language so that applicants are prepared to develop their projects with these considerations in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Agranovich?
Thank you very much. Paul Agranovich, my address is 9 Glenwood Park South in London, and I'm representing Universal Discount Package Store, and we're at 680 West Main Street in Norwich. And I'm talking about the roundabouts, the possibility that the council may be rescinding the original approval that they gave to it. I know it was mentioned a little bit earlier that the budget process was a very difficult one and had gotten through. In a budget process, if you don't like something, you take it out, but you have to fill it with something else. You can't just say, I don't like this, and you put something else in. You have to do it. So I don't like this at all. As time goes on, I like it much less, the possibility of what it would do, because it wouldn't do its stated purpose. But I think there are several things that could be done which would be far more positive and have the effect that is wanted on there. One of these would be lights on top of the, or cameras rather, on top of the traffic lights. I know next to me is an abandoned gas station. Quite a few times there are police that are parked there, and I think that they're looking for cars going through lights, speeding through red lights. I think this would be a tremendous thing. What I'd also like to see as part of enforcement are police, maybe 1 hour a day in an unmarked vehicle, day or night, just going up and down West Main Street. I know I go up and down once a day. It's about a half-mile drive. I see 3 or 4 arrestable offenses every time, either from speeding, improper lane changes, cell phones, etc. I think that would be a tremendous help also. As I look across the street from where we're located, which is where Wendy's is, when that was built when we went from 2 lanes to 4 lanes in the 80s, one of the things that was not done properly was the apron, the bottom out where you go into the street. Cars constantly bump in, scrape on the bottom. As they scrape, they stop. The cars coming in hit them. It's an inordinate number of cars that this happens in accidents. And finally, I think a road trip to London to Coleman Street would be great. What they did there, Coleman Street has 95, which goes into it. We have 395. You see dedicated left-hand lanes only. It works so beautifully. It's seamless. It's scary how easy it works, and you're not putting these crazy roundabouts in. And finally, my last thought would be that if this does go through and you put these roundabouts in, what you have in downtown Norwich, sadly, which is abandoned buildings, business fronts, lack of taxes, this will happen to the lifeblood of Norwich,
Thank you,
which
sir.
is Route 82. Please don't let that happen. Thank you.
Bill Champagne?
Hi, Bill Champagne, President of the Norwich Historical Society. My address is 7 Northwest Corner Road, Preston. And you all know Regan Miner, consultant to the Norwich Historical Society, 26 Stewart Road in Norwich. And I'd like to speak on resolution number 2, having to do with the Sachem Fund. Norwich Historical Society has put the Sachem Fund money to very good use in the past. We've used it to restore the Lathrop Schoolhouse, create the Discover Norwich exhibit, and created 2 self-guided walking trails. And we're extremely proud of all of that work. This year, we have secured almost $28,000 from the State Culture and Tourism Office that needs to be matched locally to complete the 4 major walks in the walking trail program. And the 2 that we're hoping to do this year are the Millionaire's Triangle and the Freedom Trail. And following up on Alana's comment, we're happy to work with Norwich Public Works about ADA to mirror what the city is currently doing concerning ADA elsewhere. We feel that we're building a solid base of heritage development, and we think that's important for Norwich. We'd like to continue that. And we very much appreciate the support we have gotten from the city administration and the Sachem Fund Board. And we thank you very much.
Thank you. Terry Crowley?
Good evening. It's Terry Crowley. I'm a representative from Hendels Incorporated. We're a business located in Waterford, Connecticut at 35 Great Neck Road. I'm the sales manager for the organization. We own the Sunoco gasoline convenience store on 565 West Main Street, and we would also be adversely affected by the roundabout project, where we have just, in our properties, we have just recently invested substantial funds in both underground tankage and pumps, redoing the inside of the building. The project, as we see it now, would render our location useless. Obviously, we would lose values there. We have a tenant that has invested his part of his life savings in the location for his own personal business. He also would be affected. So we are for the resolution number 5 to start the review project over again.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on agenda items? Yes, sir.
Herbert Nyberg, 6 Hawthorne Road, Old Lyme, Connecticut. I represent Colonial Car Wash on 577 West Main Street. Honorable Mayor Hinchey, council members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address the council again. I presented numbers to you before, which came from references that I was given by the city here of Norwich, references Golden, Colorado and Billings, Montana. The Golden, Colorado on South Golden Road study is referenced by almost all subsequent new developments that are putting in roundabouts. It's touted to be an excellent example. However, from 2008 to 2016, the population of Golden, Colorado increased 18%. The average daily traffic count throughout Golden, Colorado increased 12%, while over that same period, the traffic flow on South Golden, Colorado decreased 21.55%, representing a net 32% loss in business potential. Admittedly, in 2013, there was additional construction which saw a traffic drop of 25%, but was finished by 2014. The 2015 and 2016 counts continue to show decreased traffic. I have a graph of it here. Billings, Montana, where from 2000 to 2010, the population increased 14.5%, while the street study remained static at less than 13,000 cars per day. Both prove the proposed traffic circles will have a major negative impact on the business of West Main Street. Mr. Thompson did follow up with comments to these numbers after corresponding with the City of Golden, Colorado. I have comments from his email below. Paragraph 4A, subparagraph, the roundabouts were built in 1999 to 2000, having now been in operation nearly 20 years. During this entire time, traffic volumes have generally increased or remained stable. My comment, this is false. They have not generally increased and they have decreased. Traffic, paragraph B, traffic volume reductions did occur over a decade. Basically, the construction was completed in 2014. The volume continued to drop in the following years, 2015 and 2016. It also mentions that 1,000 cars drop in traffic is only a normal aberration that they see in highway construction. If we have even as small as a 10% drop, I will lose 1 million cars a year going in front of my car wash. Golden, Colorado had a net 30%. Even best case, if we have 10%, I will lose 1 million cars a year. This is a very, very substantial impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on agenda items? Yes, sir. Back here.
My name is Ken Capano. I and my family own a shop right here on West Main. I live in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. We operate a supermarket here in town, 175 to 225 employees. We're in a low gross margin business and highly competitive. The resolution number 5, I fully agree with. In fact, I would like to see it say, just stop the project, and if anything, try and find other alternatives. That project will really hurt my business. I got one competitor 2 miles north of me. I have 2 competitors 1 mile west of me. I have another competitor 2.5 miles south of me, and then I got the Walmart up in Lisbon. And during a period of construction, my business would be devastated. And a 5 to 10% drop in volume is a killer. And so I just fully support Resolution 5 and ask you, if anything else, to make it stronger and just stop the project now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes.
Hi, Greg Conover, representing Norwich Realty Associates. We own Marcus Plaza at 624 West Main Street. Just want to reiterate what some of the other voices have said tonight regarding the roundabouts. We've owned the shopping center for many decades. It's been a good shopping center for us and a good shopping center for the community. We are concerned that these roundabouts are going to have a significant effect on our tenants. Our tenants are our customers, and when I start getting phone calls from Ken and from other customers, it really rings an alarm for us. So I would just ask that you support resolution number 5. You know, I would echo what Ken said and just say we'd like to see it be even stronger with an outright rejection of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes.
Laurie Danis, 21 Patrick Place in Norwich. I also am a business owner on West Main Street, and my family owns 2 commercial buildings on West Main Street. I've been to quite a few of these city council meetings, and I know if one thing that you all worry about is our tax base. And if you're going to start putting that project on West Main Street, I count at least 20 businesses that you're going to be taking off the grand list. And I don't think Norwich can afford to take 20 businesses off the grand list. Not just the properties, but also the business. We also pay taxes on that, too. So I think that's something you all should be worried about. I counted banks, gas stations, a medical center, hairdresser, liquor store, restaurants, myself a laundromat, medical supply store. All of these would be gone. The state would be taking it. That's off the grand list. You don't get any more money for that. Like the gentleman said before, this is an experiment. This has never been done in such a short distance to put 6 roundabouts. I don't think Norwich needs to be the experiment for the country. I definitely am in favor of your bill and to put that resolution forward and, like they said, even something stronger and get rid of it altogether. I also want to mention, too, that I think it might be a detriment to the fire trucks to have these roundabouts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Mark Grader, president of Grader Jewelers Incorporated from 561 West Main Street. I live in Groton, Connecticut. I wasn't planning to speak. I was planning to listen like I have in the past about the Rotary projects, but I have to agree with so many of the previous speakers. For example, the gentleman from Universal Package Store who says, I'm liking this less and less. And part of it, one of the things that's not being discussed or that I haven't heard is the simple fact that brick and mortar businesses are probably in one of the most critical junctures right now that we've ever been in. And so the very last thing that we need is to throw any sort of delay into allowing people to travel to our stores for what we still have, and that is for people to see, touch, feel, and interact with our sales force. And for that reason, I really think this needs to be stopped. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes.
Rodney Boyce, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. The speakers before me have all spoken eloquently about this. I would like to see this project killed, just flat, outright killed. Now, they're talking $42 million. I guarantee it'll be 60. I'd like to know who is actually pushing this, because the state says they don't have any money. And here we are. We're not doing this just one time in the state of Connecticut. We're doing it more than one time. So where is the state getting this money from, unless they're going to bond it? Now, I timed it from Greenville to the Dime Savings Bank. I can drive it at a reasonable speed, 11 to 12 minutes. 11 to 12 minutes. And this was a road that was designed by the state, as Peter showed us back 6 or 8 weeks ago. Designed by the state. Now, these roundouts, the first one I ever ran across was up in New Hampshire. And didn't like it then. I don't like the idea of it now. And I don't see it pushing the traffic at all, speeding the traffic up, or making it easy to get in and out of any particular place. I guarantee you I won't be able to go at a moderate speed to the Dime Savings Bank when it's all said and done in 11 to 12 minutes. And we'll have spent $40 to $60 million doing it. I hate to say the words I normally say, but this is a situation here that just does not seem sensible to me at all. I'm for the amendment, that we know what's going on, but I want to withdraw support for this particular project.
Thank you, sir. Senator?
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Kathy Austin. I live at 187 Scotland Road in Baltic, Connecticut, and I'm here to support the resolution number 5. And I would be happy to work with the City Council to see the project change in scope and design so that we can get a project that increases the number of businesses that are on West Main Street and slow traffic down. There are other designs out there that could accomplish this with far less taxpayer dollars and in a far shorter construction time frame. I think that this project, with the length of its construction and the number of roundabouts in such a short amount of time and such a short amount of space, create a difficult, unreliable way for businesses to plan for their future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir. In the back.
Good evening. Frank Manfredi, 94 Plain Hill Road, Norwich. Sheila Hayes with me.
Sheila Hayes, 288 Central Avenue.
And we're speaking on behalf of the Ellis Ruley Committee on resolution number 3, and we would ask the City Council to adopt the recommendation of the Sachin Fund to grant money to this project. As you know, this project was brought before the City Council back in June of 2015. The City Council adopted a resolution establishing our committee with the instructions basically for us to try to improve the Ellis Ruley homestead into a park, a memorial for Ellis Ruley, and other activities on behalf of Ellis Ruley Memorial, which we've done through planning exhibits and festivals in his honor. And we would respectfully request the City Council to please adopt the Sachem Fund recommendation.
And is that also on October 3rd of 2016, we gave you an update. It was almost a year from September 15th to October. We gave you the update, which you should have in front of you, is this pamphlet that was produced that has been since the bust is located on the 3rd floor. We continue to update this, but the 5 major projects are inside that we had updated you that we planned on working on over the next 2 years. The project will be complete. We will complete everything by the end of 2018. And again, we ask for your support. To date, we have raised, and you also have a list of all of the sponsors to date, we have raised close to $20,000, and we have a major fundraiser coming up at the end of the month that we will continue to raise money on our own to be a match to the Sachem Fund money that were approved by the committee. I'm also just going to deviate because I do want to talk about resolution number 5, and I would implore you to reach out to the state. There are other ways that the state can address how to slow down traffic. It does not have to be the roundabouts. The state actually brought in an expert at a conference I was at where he gave other alternatives. So they are aware that there are other alternative ways to slow down traffic on 82. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John McNeil. I work with Savin Gasoline Properties. We own and operate East Great Plains Mobiles, 49 from the London Turnpike. It's across the street from the East Great Plains Fire Department. When we first heard about the roundabouts, it really took us by surprise. I'm here to support Resolution 5, as you can imagine. Most of the businesses that are here tonight, they're all pretty much on the same page. I also was born in Norwich and went to school here too, so I've been around and I've seen that road go from a 2 to a 4-lane highway, and I really request that before due consideration should be given to other options. I really feel, if you hear everybody's comments tonight, if we really want to be a little tongue-in-cheek here, to cut to the chase and we can save millions of dollars, let's just put no trespassing signs on all of our properties, and that would eliminate all the traffic, and the businesses would fail. So, I mean, that would save maybe $50 worth of signs, and we would get there. I mean, that's really how I feel, we would all be affected. So just to take a step back and consider our pain and look for some other options. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on the agenda? Yes, sir?
Again, good evening. David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. I'm speaking to resolutions 1, 2, and 3, and I oppose all of them. Belt tightening is needed since the legislature is wrapped up in legislating instead of producing. The governor wants to load municipalities with the teacher pensions on top of it. Now, the motor vehicle tax seemed to be an awful big burden when it was talked about in newspapers, but it's minuscule compared to what's going on here tonight. Terminate the Sachem Fund, cut council spending to 2014, and look hard at NCDC. Most of the business activity going on in Norwich is outside of their jurisdiction. I remember investing $100,000 in a police station that was advertised in such glowing terms from its Sears location. our money joined the people that Bernie Madoff sold his funds to. So we're just in the same boat as Bernie Madoff when it comes to the glowing projections we hear about on so many projects. My two-page handout addresses a MOU that NCDC came out with a couple of years ago that seems to be in a circular file right now. And it also has a 1997 Cato Institute report about the Republican takeover of Congress during the Clinton administration, right after Clinton raised taxes. Seems to me there's something that's repetitive in relation to taxes. So I would like to jump and make one more comment about West Main Street roundabouts. If as many businesses shut down as what we're hearing about, it seems it's an awful big expenditure to drive businesses out of town because we won't need them if there's nothing to interfere with the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on tonight's agenda? Anyone else wishing to speak on tonight's agenda? Anyone else wishing to speak on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, as public hearing is closed. Thank you all very much for your comments and insights.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, I need a break.
Go ahead. Will a 5-minute recess be okay?
A long 5 minutes, like 7 minutes.
I guess we are taking a 7-minute recess.
Thank you.
single-payer plan that is true universal health coverage.
Thank you all. We'll resume.
New business resolutions. Number 1, relative to approving the list of applicants under the Neighborhood Assistance Act.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderman Braddock, Alderman Nash, is there discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? And that's unanimous.
Number 2, relative to recommendations made by the Sachem Fund Committee.
Is there a motion and a second, please? To bring this forward, Alderman Nash, Alderwoman Philbrick, is there discussion? This is to approve $27,772.50 to the Norwich Historical Society. Is there any further discussion? Yes, sir?
Could we ask Mr. Champagne to come up and maybe address a little bit of the ADA issue that was brought up to us by one of our
Sure,
constituents?
Mr. Champagne.
The only thing I would say about that is we'd be happy to work with Norwich Public Works and basically mirror what is being done elsewhere in Norwich. And I assume it's mostly dealing with wheelchair access, but I don't know. I don't know what the concern is. We obviously did work with Public Works in implementing the first 2 walks, and we'll have to implement in the second 2. Thoughts?
May I? Has there been any issues? I mean, you've been doing these for a few years now. Has there been issues in the past that you've had to address specifically, or is this something that?
We've been doing walks for, during Walktober, not just these 2 self-guided walks, for, I'm going to guess, 10 years. We just did a second Saturday walk at Uncas Leap, and one gentleman did trip over the sidewalk, where the sidewalk, one section is like an inch higher than the other. And it makes sense to even that out. That's the only issue I've heard of.
Thank you, sir.
Over the years.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Champagne? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Braddock?
Thank you. I think my regret is that over the years, we have a good relationship with the Mohegans to develop this Sachem Fund. And I know it became somewhat of a struggle contributing into it what we were contributing into, but it's really pitiful that we're giving up a return of 100% of our dollars because we could not find the money to continue working with the Mohegans for the Sachem Fund. We have an opportunity to double our money, and we just can't seem to seize it. And that's my only comment.
Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Number 3, relative to recommendations made by the Sachem Fund Committee.
A motion and a second, please. Alderman Nash, Alderwoman Gould, is there discussion? Hearing, yes?
Yes, this is resolution number 3, correct?
Correct. This is the Ellis Ruley Committee.
I'd like Deanna Rhodes to come forward and give us a little background, please.
Deanna Rhodes, City Planner.
I understand that there is some discussion about whether or not the family is fully in support of this project, and I wondered if you could just give us a little background information.
Sure. So last week, the Finance Department received an inquiry from a great-granddaughter of Ellis Ruley, who was inquiring about several things. He wanted to find out about the money that's being raised, wanted to know about how we were using the name. So there were some questions. So the Sachem Fund, I am the co-chair of the Sachem Fund with Bill Quidgen, and we called a special meeting that met today at 4 o'clock with the Sachem Fund members to give the opportunity to the Ellis Ruley Committee to address these concerns that were brought up by the relative. I did speak on the phone before the meeting several days ago with Lottie Scott and Frank Manfredi, Attorney Manfredi, who filled me in that they've had a relationship with this family member that's kind of been somewhat of a roller coaster. There's support for the project. She's come forward to several different events, and then other times has not shown support. So the committee did meet today and talk about it and gave them an opportunity, the committee an opportunity to present their situation. And what was decided by the committee, the Sachem Fund Committee, was to stay with the original recommendation, which is to support the funding of this project, this park, which is really coincides well with the other heritage proposal from the Historical Society. So this park could be really a heritage destination for the community. So I think the committee decided, the consensus of the committee was to go forward with their recommendation to the council and let the council discuss those concerns if they had them. Is there any more questions for me?
Anyone else have questions for Ms. Rhodes? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? I guess I will say I'm in support of this. I also sit on the Sachem Fund Committee. I think that Mr. Ruley and his artwork, it's an incredible asset for Norwich. His artwork is truly unique. I've never seen anything like it, and he painted on pieces of wood and all kinds of things, not your standard canvas that you get at the art supply store. They are in museums, in collections across the country, and as I understand, what they're trying to do at this site, which I've been to, and it is quite remarkable, is to have it be low maintenance, but a place where people can go and think about nature and art and really feel this significant historical piece of Norwich. The other thing that I like about the project is that it will expand out into children, other art venues, so it isn't going to be just out in nature. It will be bringing in education, art, and it recognizes one of our great persons of color who lived in Norwich and was very creative. The issue about the grandchild or great-granddaughter, you know, we talked about that at length, and you know, I think no one's making a profit off of this, no one other than bringing a truly significant artist to the forefront. So I'll be in support of this endeavor. So thank you.
Mayor, do you mind if I add something else? The Sachem Fund did ask the Attorney Driscoll to be at the meeting as well to support us if there was any concerns legally in moving forward the project, and I think we felt comfortable with moving forward with this project just the way it was proposed. And the educational component is really significant as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Yes, sir?
Just a quick one. I think it was about 16 years ago when I was in New York City with two other couples. It was a weekend away, and we had a lunch we were going to on Sunday, and we were kind of walking the streets, and we peered into one of the windows, and unfortunately, the exhibit was closed, but it was an Ellis Ruley exhibit in New York City. And I was really pretty taken by that. And we talked a little bit about it, the fact that this person was from Norwich, Connecticut, And then I came back to my business, and maybe 6 or 8 months later, Harry Ruley came in, and he caught my ear for about 2 hours on a Sunday with some fascinating stories about Ellis Ruley. And he came back a couple of other times on a Sunday. That's kind of a slow time at my business. And I think every community really needs a character. And I think we have a fine character here, and we're doing a fine job of exposing this so that people can see what an artist he was and the hope that he can give to other people who may have an interest in art. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
I'm going to be in favor of Resolution 3. I've been sitting here every time I've been elected, and I've always said that I'm not from Connecticut. I've been here now 30 years, and I came from New Jersey, and nobody in New Jersey heard of Norwich. We've heard of Salem, Massachusetts. We've heard of Gettysburg. We heard of Jamestown. We heard of Williamsburg, but we never heard of Norwich. When I moved here and became an officer and worked the streets and listened to the many stories, and I know the the Ruley family very well. I coached them in sports, some of the younger ones back in my day. But I learned quickly how much history is here in Norwich. We have tremendous, tremendous history, some that rivals the places I've mentioned, and we seem to miss out. And I just had a conversation with Ms. Miner and Ms. Owens' services and said that I'm so happy to see the walks that we have going on because it does highlight the history of our city. And I think it's a history we miss out on a lot. And here's an opportunity for us to grab a hold of a gentleman who is nationally known, not just in Norwich, but nationally known, like another famous, notorious son of ours that we miss out the boat on. So again, I would strongly recommend all the members of the council to support this resolution.
Hearing no further discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
And that is unanimous.
Number 4, relative to reappointments of regular members to the Inland Wetlands, Watercourses, and Conservation Committee.
A motion and a second, please. Alderwoman Gould, Alderman Braddock, is there discussion? For the interest of the public, the regular member is Arthur Sharon, and the other member is David Poor. Hearing no further discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
And that is unanimous.
Number 5, relative to amending a resolution adopted on March 7, 2016, regarding the Route 82 corridor.
A motion and a second, please. President Pro Tem and Alderman Nash. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
Thank you. When this proposition from the state first came to the council, shortly thereafter, I took an afternoon and walked West Main Street, stopping in at many of the businesses along that corridor to ask them about their support for or against this project. And I was amazed to find out how many of the business owners didn't know a thing about the project. Fast forward about a year, we're still talking to the business owners who are now more well-informed about the project, and I will be supporting resolution number 5. As a small business owner myself, I know what a 5 or 10% decrease can do to a small business. Living in East Great Plain, I'm frequent at the gas station, at ShopRite, at Greater Jewelers. My father would be lost without Mrs. Danis and her business. And all of the other businesses, the dry cleaner, the restaurants. I'm afraid that all of these businesses will suffer, and in this day and age, we need every business on Route 82 to be successful. We need more businesses to come onto Route 82 to grow our grand list. We cannot afford to lose one business along Route 82. And therefore, I will support this resolution. I do remember being at a Public Safety Committee meeting a year ago and asking the representatives who came here from the state if there was an alternative that they could propose or maybe implement right away without very much cost such as left-hand turn arrows into some of the businesses. And they just said, nope, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to give you 6 roundabouts, sort of whether you like it or not. Well, I don't like it. So I will be supporting resolution number 5.
Anyone else? Mr. Braddock?
Thank you, Mayor. When this proposition first came to us as a council, and we looked at what the state had to say about Route 82 and the turnabouts, I liked the idea of slowing traffic down. I liked the whole idea of safety. Safety is paramount in our lives. A lot has happened since then. I've talked with a lot of business owners on Route 82. I was a business owner, and I know that the disruptions in a business, if they are teetering on making it or not making it, will not make it. If the DOT would align themselves with the DECD so that there was aid for the businesses that had trouble, I would certainly feel a whole lot better with this. We had a project in Norwich that started off at a $7.5 million ITC, and it turned out to be a $23 million empty parking lot. So I'm learning a little bit more about what happens when our state gets involved in things and gets out of control very quickly. I think we're all working very hard to support and grow business in this community. And of all the business owners I've listened to today, and I will say right now that when this first came about, I did sign on to it. But all the businesses that are here today that represent a great deal of our grand list, and they feel like if this goes forward, then it could very well put them out of business. I would like to see the state of Connecticut, the DOT, again working with the DECD, have a more favorable proposition for us. As it stands right now, having 6 turnabouts, and I like turnabouts, it slows me down, but to have 6 turnabouts in 1 1/3 miles really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us, to me right now. And I thank all the business people that came forward tonight and gave testimony. It's very important for us to listen to how you all feel about your businesses and how we can try to help your businesses. So thank you very much for coming in.
Mr. Nystrom?
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank the businesses who have come in. I met with some of you over the weekend, or your representatives. Did a little door-to-door myself this time. I think a comment that really should carry the day in this resolution is how we might strengthen this. I was not one of those who supported roundabouts or the concept of waiting for a 30% design. We've been waiting for well over 1.5 years. The last information I had was we would be waiting another almost 2 more years before we even saw that. I think stalling development and investment in that corridor is a detriment to the city of Norwich. I'm also appreciative of the fact that our state senator came tonight and spoke on behalf of our city, of our businesses in that corridor, and of this resolution. She's someone who can certainly carry our message back to DOT directly as a state senator of our concern about the negative impact that this concept brings. But I still think it needs to be strengthened. So I would like to propose an amendment, and I would move that we strike the language or the reduction in the number of roundabouts from this document. This would still require DOT to give us public periodic updates, give us more information, but it would ask them to eliminate roundabouts from the design itself, because I think we should not be a lab test for them, and I think that's what this represents to us. There's too much at stake.
Are you making a motion?
Yes, I did, Mayor. Thank you.
And what is that motion?
Motion is to remove the language or the reduction in the number of roundabouts.
Is there a second? Mr. Nash? Is there discussion? Mr. Braddock?
To remove the roundabouts to what extent?
Pardon me?
To remove the roundabouts to what extent? All of them totally?
This would ask them to look at new designs to address the safety issues on that road, which we all know are real, and to consider alternative solutions. Some were outlined tonight, whether it's higher enforcement, cameras on lights, improving access to the roads and so forth, left-hand turn lanes. I was out in Illinois in the 80s. They called them suicide lanes. You would stop facing another car at the same line, same point, but you're taking a left turn, they're taking a right turn. It worked back then in the 80s in Illinois. I don't see why it couldn't work here, and it would save the state a bundle of money. But yes, it would ask them to eliminate roundabouts from their continued design. That's the impact of the amendment.
Thank you.
Mr. Nash?
Madam Mayor, when this first came out, you know, we sit up here as elected officials and we listen to our experts and they tell us this and they tell us that. And it's basically what we have to go on is what our experts tell us. So when this first came out, I was very concerned about 6 roundabouts in a small location like that. I mean, one of them is like within 100 feet of the other, which really, I mean, I'm not a traffic designer and I certainly don't understand that part, but I was a police officer and I do understand how traffic does work. And that is a bad area up there. There are a lot of accidents over my career, and most of them have been left-hand turns or coming out of the shopping centers, trying to go left out of the shopping centers and across the 2 lanes. So that is an area up there of major, major concern. But even then, with our experts coming here and telling us this was the best idea and all that kind of stuff, I do remember on a phone conversation that I was involved in, on the speakerphone, and I said I was really concerned about businesses that would close their doors due to the delay or to the traffic interference. And I don't remember who made the comment, so I do apologize, but the remark was made to me, well, better for those businesses to close because they're not strong. And I just didn't understand that whole concept as a business owner. It's the city's responsibility to do the best we can to, I don't say support businesses like financially, but do the best we can to provide them the atmosphere and environment to succeed. And I didn't think 6 roundabouts was definitely the way we could go. Though I did sign on because our experts said, let them do the design process and let them come back to us and we can decide as a city or as a council whether or not we wanted these roundabouts. But after going over and over again and speaking with people, I really am struggling with this whole roundabout thing and the fact that there absolutely is other alternative designs that we could use that do not have roundabouts involved. So, and no lanes that Mr. Nystrom was talking about, they have them in Hartford. I drive there every day at the schools, and I don't see too many issues in front of my school, which is I'm on Weathersfield Avenue, very busy in a roadway there, and I'm in and out of there. And the lanes that Mr. Nystrom was talking about, they seem to work pretty adequate, and I haven't seen too many issues there. So I will be in favor of the resolution and the amendment. Thank you.
You're saying you're...
Oh, I'm for everything, yeah. Let's go.
For everything?
For what, Mr., yeah.
For the
The amended resolution. Yes, ma'am.
Is there anyone else who wants to discuss the amended resolution?
Amendment.
Well, that's what we're having the discussion on. Right.
I would like to weigh in before it's amended.
He wants to weigh in before it's amended.
You're debating on the amendment right now.
You're debating?
No, let it go.
Did you want to say something? No. Anyone else? No, we're debating the amendment. No one else? I'll weigh in then. I can appreciate the concerns, and certainly I have made, I think just about everyone who came up and spoke, I have actually made visits to the businesses. And so I can appreciate what you're talking about. The other thing I can appreciate is looking at the traffic accidents and the safety and that kind of thing. It concerns me that you're saying take out the roundabouts because in consultation with the DOT, There was never a definite 6 or any number. It was to study them. And I think we are, cutting short what could be creative plans, because even if they decide that the best plan is to have 2 roundabouts, what you're doing here with this amendment is saying no roundabouts. And I just think it's short-sighted. They are not able to do anything without coming here and telling us what it is. So I can appreciate wanting to do some of the things that the resolution spoke to, but the amendment ties the hands of traffic design, and there isn't a one of us who is a traffic designer. So I think, for that reason, I will not support saying taking out all roundabouts. So, any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing no further discussion, we vote on the amendment, correct? Yes. Those in favor of the amendment of removing, as I understand it, of removing,
Or the reduction in the number of roundabouts.
so it would be no roundabouts, correct?
Well, you're removing that specific language. The remaining language would be as proposed
By the elimination of roundabouts.
proposed for the route.
Okay? So that's what we're voting on. All those in favor?
Let's have clarity one more time, please.
Okay, what you're voting on is an amendment that would change this to
Paragraph 8.
paragraph 8 to, now therefore be it further resolved by the Council of the City of Norwich that it requests the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation periodically update the Council of the City of Norwich through its Public Works Subcommittee throughout the planning process on proposed improvements, that the Department of Transportation consider changes to the project as proposed by the elimination of roundabouts proposed on the route, and that it conduct periodic public informational meetings to receive citizen input as the project progresses. All those in favor of the amendment? And that is Nash, Gould, Philbrook, Nystrom. Those opposed? Martin, Braddock, Henchy, and so the amendment carries. Now we vote on the resolution. Now, is there any debate on the resolution as amended? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Briefly, I appreciate everyone's concerns that have been stated tonight here on the council. I respect your concerns as well. I would say that this is a resolution. It's not an ordinance. The state will be given a very strong message of our concerns, the same concerns expressed by our business owners and leaders here in the city of Norwich, and they are taxpayers. And I think that's the best position to, quote, bargain from when you're dealing with the state of Connecticut. I had 18 years to work with DOT. I spent 16 years getting Route 232 Yannick Lane rebuilt, that highway where you took your life in hand just to go home to Yannick Lane every day by stopping in the passing lane and waiting to cut through the guardrail. That's a success story. That works, the way they separated those highways. And it's not that DOT isn't interested in doing what is right to help a community like us. But sometimes I think they become short-sighted and they get caught up in their own design. And I think that's what happened here. This resolution will ask them, from the strongest argument on our citizens' behalf, to not use roundabouts. It's my hope that that becomes their design, but it certainly doesn't stop them from coming back and having further discussions with us. For those of you who are concerned about limiting their design, it makes them have to demonstrate that it is safer, that it will work, that it will not harm our business interests. And that's what this is about. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir?
I'm going to be supporting this resolution, but there are some caveats to it. I'm glad that a lot of the businesses reached out to some of the city council members, but where were you before? Where were you before when the state was here and asking for your input? Where were you? You had your chance. We didn't have to go this far. My only concern here is that we took the state, we drug them all along to this point that we're going to play and we're on board here, and then we don't go through with a project. Then what happens is when Norwich needs more money from the state, they're going to say, oh, well, they just drug us through the mud and just didn't do what we wanted to do anyhow. Now, I understand that 6 roundabouts may be too much, and that was agreed, but that was stated right from the beginning. They stated right to us before that they were going to come with a design and present it back to us, and if we didn't like it, we can tweak it. Now, I don't believe everything they tell me either, because every time they've met before me, I've been asking for the damn signal light in front of ShopRite to be changed instead of counting to 3 to make a left-hand turn to go and get my groceries. And they haven't changed it yet. And it's been almost, what, a year and a half. So my confidence in the Connecticut DOT is not very big when they can't even go to a signal, open up a box, change a timer, and say, oh, it's going to mess up the other side. And to take the fate of businesses' life savings in my hands and just go there, this has to be somewhere in between. That's why I'm supporting this resolution, because of the state and its actions or inactions in this case. You know, if they would have proven to me that they would have stood behind their word and done more, but like I said, they don't even open up a box to change the timer on a signal. How much does that cost? Costs maybe a half hour, hour worth of time for a gentleman, a technician, to go out there and do it. And they haven't done it. Now, if they get it halfway into this project and they start messing up, these guys are going to lose their life savings and their business and their livelihood. And I don't want that on my conscience. So I'm going to support resolution number 5. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the amended resolution? And so that is Mr. Nash, Martin, Gould, Philbrick, and Nystrom. Those opposed? Braddock and Henchy, and so the motion carries. Mr. Braddock?
Motion to go into executive session. I hereby move pursuant.
What? Keep going.
I hereby move pursuant to the Connecticut General Assembly Statute 1-20 that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the performance and evaluation of the city manager, John Salamone, who does not require these discussions be held in open meeting. Director of Human Resources, Bridget Marks, shall be asked to attend all or portions of this executive sessions at the request of the City Council.
Is there a second? Mr. Nystrom? Those in favor?
Aye.